This show is proudly supported by Habitats at Home, Australia's leading PVC reptile enclosure specialist. Check them out on Instagram and Facebook at Habitats at Home, and be sure to visit habitatsathome.com.au if you're in the market for a new PVC reptile enclosure or other reptile accessories. Massive thanks to Tyson over at Habitats at Home. We'd like to thank our podcast sponsor, Bay, reimagining reptile keeping through innovation. They combine quality, design, and function to create high-end 3D printed reptile products. And if you've got a unique setup or problem, they'll craft a custom solution made just for you. Check them out on Instagram at Bay. This show is proudly supported by Dan from Red Earth Reptiles. If you want to drool over some of the best looking green tree pythons in the country, check out Dan on Instagram at red_earth_reptiles. G'day and welcome to Under the Heatland with Joe Mack. Today I'm doing things a little bit different. There's no guest for today's episode. It's just going to be a bit of a solo one. We've had a lot of things going on lately, and when I say we, I mean me. You might have seen on my story a week or so ago, I managed to purchase my first home, which is this beautiful little unit that I'm in here now in Cairns, which I'm extraordinarily happy about, even though someone decided to paint these bedroom walls something reminiscent of a cigarette stained yellow. That's okay, that's something that I can change. There's a bunch of other little quirks in the form of a box aircon like that guy that just rattles the place to pieces, and a few other things. I think my oven is probably 40 years old, but that's okay. Obviously, things that are pretty easily changeable. And what's more important than any of that currently for me is that I don't have to deal with real estate agents pretty much ever again if I don't want to. I don't have to deal with landlords. I do still have a housemate, which is helpful because renting is significantly cheaper than buying. At least it has been for me in my current setup. So I do have a housemate to worry about, but he's awesome, so it's not too much of a stress at all. But what it means is that I can put my animals practically where I want them. So this place is a bit smaller than where we were previously. We're in 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and this one's significantly smaller than that. So the living space is got a stack of animals in it at the moment. And it's all a bit of a hodgepodge mess. So where I was previously, I had a few animals sort of spread around the place. Obviously, all the venomous stuff is kept in, by the standards in escape-proof enclosures, which I think all reptile enclosures pretty much are or definitely should be. So I'm meeting all the standards there, obviously, in a locked room, locked enclosures, an escape-proof room, and all those sort of things. But the lounge room here now has just a hodgepodge of all different enclosures that had been not much of an issue at the last place because they were spread across a few different rooms. But now I don't really have the capacity to be able to sort of spread them out so much anymore. So it's a bunch of different styled enclosures sort of jammed in together on one wall. And I'll get to that a little bit later, but there's some plans I want to have come to fruition in the coming months where that will look a bit better. But I guess something that's probably worth talking about is just moving house with a reptile collection. And, my collection is not crazy at the moment. I think there's between 20 and 25 animals here at the moment. Most of them are young to juveniles. There's only really a handful of adult animals that, require a lot of space and all that sort of thing. But when you're moving house, there are many considerations which you have to take into account when moving, and it's I guess in my case I've been lucky in the sense that I've got a lot of experience doing it, but very unlucky because to get that experience it means I've fucking moved houses a bunch of times. So I've moved in Cairns. This is going into my 6th year of living here. I think this is the 6th property I've been in, which is a pain in the ass, but hey, fingers crossed that shouldn't happen anymore. I really damn hope. And there's no need to hope because it can't happen. I bought this place. It's mine. I'm staying here. But moving into this place, it was a lot of consideration had to go into, at least for now, where the sun hits, what wall. When I actually purchased the place, I had a bit of a really good look at how the property itself would react or interact with the weather in Cairns, and I managed to get really lucky with this one. The eastern side of the building is heavily protected by foliage and then the staircase as well. So it doesn't get much eastern sun at all, which is really good. I'm in the first floor, so there's the ground floor, and then I'm on the first floor, and then there's a second floor above me as well, which means my unit is heavily insulated above and below. And just like I mentioned on the eastern side as well, it doesn't get a great deal of sun. It gets a little bit, it gets some really nice morning light coming through. But by about, I don't know, 10 or 11 o'clock or whatever, the sun's up high enough that the unit's hardly getting any sun. It's really nice though. It's crazy. I don't get much direct sun, but a lot of natural light. There's a lot of windows here, which is really awesome. And that I'll talk about the windows as well shortly too. But the western side, there's some big trees over there on the northern face of the western side, if that makes any sense. So in winter, which the sun is still currently moving now, in the winter, that tree is going to block a lot of the sunlight. But as we move towards, the summer solstice, the sun will head south a bit more, or the earth will head south, or whatever the fucking whichever way it goes. And I'm going to be copping a little bit more sun on that western side of the building. And it is a concrete or brick building, as you can probably see in the video if you're looking. So gonna have to see how that plays out and how that's going to affect us with the animals and whatnot. Because if that wall heats up a lot, it'll raise the temps. But the Cairns weather lately has been a bit funny. Last week I was just thinking, shit, we've had a couple of extra weeks of cold weather, which was very pleasant, very welcome. And I thought, geez, this unit's staying really cool. It's been staying actually really lovely and cool. Hasn't the place didn't really go above sort of 28 and a half, which was really nice. And then just in the last couple of days, we've been smashed with no breeze, hot days, which is awesome if you're into boating, but not so good if you're into keeping animals inside your house. So it's been pretty hot. The unit's sort of sat between 30 and 31, which is obviously fine for the animals. And I just have to go and adjust my heating, which is actually a good reminder. I need to go and I should write that down. I need to go and adjust all my thermostats and whatnot. When I finish this, I'll just write that down. That's very helpful for me. Notes are good. Yeah, so yeah, when I was talking about the windows before, I've got massive windows on the eastern side and the western side. So if I've got all the windows open in the house, there is just a mad breeze that rips through here, which I think is something that's maybe not spoken about as much as it should be in terms of captive animal husbandry. I really think fresh air goes a long way. So I leave all the fans on, just two, nothing crazy. Just leave all the fans on two in the room where there are reptiles at all times. I think that's very important. But this place is so breezy and nice that it's been really good. So yeah, just moving forward to the next couple of months. When it gets warmer in Cairns, I tend to pretty much just operate on ambient temperatures for the most part anyway, just because most of the things that I keep are tropical species. They just don't really need any auxiliary heating. And there is a worry too. I don't really use too many thermostats because I sort of prefer not to have that little link in there that could fail and cook things. So I just sort of run things on timers and check with temp guns and probes and all those sorts of things to make sure that heating element physically can't cook those enclosures. I'm rambling a bit. I got into this episode thinking, geez, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Thought it might only go for 10 minutes or so, but we're 8 minutes in and I have hardly touched my notes. So it's going all right, I suppose. A bit weird talking to yourself, but it's all right. We're all a bit can all be a bit nutty at times, especially reptile people. We're kind of all sort of looped in there. My aircon is rattling like anything. I wonder if the software will cut this out or not, but if not, sorry. Otherwise, I'm just carrying on. But yeah, so I'm really happy with the place as a whole. The no landlords, no real estate things is great. Really happy with the temperature being at least very stable. Airflow is really good and all that sort of stuff. But actually physically moving here wasn't too bad. It's only about a 12-minute drive from where I had lived previously. But when you've got that many animals to work with, it's not exactly an easy task. So luckily enough, I had some really good mates give me a hand over a couple of days. So thank you very much, Jake, Hamish, and Hopper. I really appreciate you guys a bunch. I chewed their ears off with appreciation already, but I'll do it once more. So when it came time to actually moving here, to actually move here and move some animals, the first order of operations was the elapids. Obviously, some of the bigger ones needed to be bagged, so we just pulled everything out, put it into pillowcases of appropriate size, and labeled them. Or I sort of used color coded pillowcases, and then put those guys into Sistema click clacks with labels on them, obviously. So I knew which pillowcase had which animal in it, but also had some labels thrown in as well, just to make sure I knew what I was opening up the pillowcase to when I got here. So we went ahead and bagged everything up. Thankfully, there was a bunch of animals still that are pretty small, and they are living in click clacks or systemas, or little tubs with lids currently. So I just took the water bowl out so they didn't spill. Um, Obviously, I don't need that happening. So once all the animals were bagged up and ready for transportation, I obviously had the task of cleaning out a bunch of enclosures, which was awesome because they'd been needed to be cleaned. But I didn't want to go ahead and do it, a month ago, or like a full deep substrate change and all that sort of stuff I'm referring to. I didn't want to go ahead and do that a month ago or whatever, and then have to just toss all that stuff when moving anyway. So it was nice. A bunch of enclosures got some really nice deep cleans when we moved over here. And then we had the laborious task of lugging everything from the car park. Of course, it's not as simple as just pulling up out the front of a house anymore. I had to pull up in the car park, which required a precarious reversing of a trailer to get back out. It was a bit of a mission, but we got it several times. So yeah, we had to carry all the enclosures to the bottom of the stairs and then up the stairs. And I've got one enclosure here which is 6 foot long, 2 foot deep, and 3 foot tall, and it's split down the middle. So there's two enclosures on the bottom half and one enclosure on the top half. It's made of melamine, and there's a couple of bits of form ply, and the glass is actually pretty rigid. It doesn't come out of there. So that thing was heavy, and Jake and I, for whatever reason, I don't know if we weren't thinking it through or not. We had one of those fancy bloody dollies with the 6 wheels on the bottom that are built for stairs, but this enclosure was just so big it didn't fit around the corners of the staircases. And of course, naturally, it's a funky set of stairs with like 3 steps up, 12 steps up, and then 3 steps up, and just too many corners. And then of course there's another corner to get into the door to my unit as well. So it was just a mission. Jake and I pretty much just ended up carrying that thing up, and it was too much. I ended up with big bruises on my arms from trying to like bear hug this like large fridge size enclosure. And I don't know, I was probably not doing anything compared to Jake because he's just a unit and pretty much did all that by himself. I was just there to hurt myself, I guess. But that was the first one that we got through, and thankfully a lot of the other enclosures were smaller or maybe slightly better built. I didn't build that one, so um, disclaimer there. But yeah, we got the big hard one out of the way first, and then got a lot of the smaller guys in. And I sort of had already planned out ideas in my head where I was going to put all of these enclosures, which was pretty awesome. I'm just going to turn this aircon off. It's going crazy. That works. Yeah, I had plans of where everything wanted to go. I kind of, for me nowadays, especially moving into a smaller property, the animals and enclosures sort of came first. I'm not super fussed about, having a big couch, which I've got a fucking big couch, which needs to go, unfortunately. I love that thing. But, I'm not super fussed about living space and all that sort of thing. I'd rather sort of just get the animals in and get them comfy, and then build out the living areas around that. So I've got actually a couple of cool little things that I did want to get to as well too. Is I've had this coffee table. I've been on the search for a coffee table for a couple of years that could suit my needs. I know two people who have already done this, and that's Ryan Pilgrim. I managed to see it at his place many years ago now, 7 or 8 years ago. And now Elliot Budd has one as well. And it's a coffee table with a glass top. And they've built it into being a reptile enclosure. And I'm not sure if they still have them set up anymore, but they had death adders. Both of the guys had death adders in them. So that's my plan. I didn't want to finish this enclosure and have to move it. Um, but now I'm not moving. I don't know if I mentioned that yet, but I'm not moving in a real hurry. So actually this afternoon I went out and bought the final pieces, which is a couple of bits of glass for the sides. So this enclosure is going to be glass on top, glass on both long ends, and the short ends are just a bit of timber that I painted black and put some mesh on. Again, another shout out to Hamish Nola. He gave me a big hand on that one. So once I find time, I'll silicon those bits of glass in, and I'll get that Death Adder coffee table set up. The Death Adder coffee table is accompanied by that big enclosure I was talking about before. I didn't have room for a TV cabinet because I needed room for reptile enclosures. So I've got that big reptile enclosure is acting as like the TV unit now, and it's awesome. It's what I've dreamt about for a long time. I've got my prize snake, which is one of my coastal taipans, living in the big 6 foot underneath the TV, and then I've got my pair of Jugites underneath there as well. So um, it's pretty awesome just to sit down and have those guys cruising around. And with the warmer temperatures, everyone's very active. So once the Death Adders go in there, I think that's going to be pretty damn cool. I'm very excited to have that all come to fruition. Um, yeah, so I guess how things sit now. How long have I been in this house? Today is Tuesday. I finished moving in. I moved in for 4 days straight last week, week before last, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Um, so yeah, I've pretty much been in and semi-comfortable for about a week. Just always still in the stages of, just figuring things out, moving things around, getting new, like I need a new dresser for my bedroom. All my clothes are just in a laundry basket at the moment, that sort of thing. But semi comfortably in here. But more important than my comfort is the animals. Everyone's doing really well, which I'm really pleased with. But there are quite a few animals to move on. Just again, moving to a smaller space, I've realized that there's quite a bit of refinement that needs to do and or needs to happen, I should say, that I need to do. There's a couple of animals that no longer, I don't know, really fit into the list of animals that I'm really enjoying keeping. So one of the big ones, which is a really big bummer, because I really love these little dudes, but I'm just not entirely sure how much they're enjoying the humidity, and that's the stripe-tailed monitors. I just refer to them as the cordos since their scientific name is Varanus cordolineatus. But I've got an adult pair of cordos that I received in March this year. The female was gravid at the time. She laid a clutch of eggs about a month after she arrived. Those eggs hatched after 90 days, or whatever it was. Crazy fast for, I guess, tiny little monitors. It makes sense. But um, yeah, she never fell gravid again. I really don't see much behavior from them, but I'm not home all the time. I work a full time job and whatnot, so I'm not here sitting looking at them. I know they're pretty active between sort of 1 and 4 o'clock in the afternoons, but I'm just really not around much to see them moving. But yeah, I'm just not considered convinced that the humidity isn't sort of fucking with those guys a little bit, which is a shame because they're awesome and I really love them. But the babies hatched out and they seem to be doing well. They were tongue feeding, um, eating whatever I put in front of them, little chopped up bits of rodent or lots of crickets is what I was getting them to eat for the most part. But they hatched here in the peak of the dry season. Obviously, humidity is a lot lower, temps are a lot lower. So they were super cool, running around, doing everything great. And then we had a week or two of sort of unseasonal rain, and the both the babies died. So I'm just wondering if there is um, something to do with the humidity, and they're just not agreeing with it. So I think the cordos are something that I'd look to move on. If anyone from a bit further down south or um, somewhere maybe in just a bit more of an appropriate climate would be interested in those guys, feel free to hit me up. They're an adult pair. They're so cool. Little tiny geckos. I saw someone refer to them as gecko-sized monitor lizards, and they really are. They've got a lot of personality when they come out. They spend a lot of time hiding, at least in my experience. And yeah, I'm not sure. But if someone's interested in those, reach out, let me know. I've also got two young brown tree snakes that are doing pretty well. I bought them from a local guy up here, an older guy, and they look like sort of FNQ cans, low cali things. They're like one of them's a really nice brick red color actually. They're last year's hatchlings, so they're probably getting close to, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11 or 12 months old. I guess I'm not exactly sure when he hatched them out, but I've had them for 4 or 5 months now. I got them, I guess, unestablished. He was assist feeding them, but they're pretty happily eating drop fed um, pinky mice. They're more than happy to eat two at a time. They're packing on size, which is really good. Vicious little things. They do the standard Boiga defense posture where they're sitting up in an S and they're striking constantly. But they are really cool snakes. I do enjoy them, but they're another one that if anyone wanted to reach out and hit me up, I'd probably be pretty happy to move those guys on. There is a permit condition where I'm not allowed to sell things if I haven't had them for 6 months, and I don't think I'm quite at 6 months yet. But again, if you are keen on a couple of young Boiga, feel free to drop me a message and we'll get to it when the time comes, I suppose. Another big one, excuse me, for me is the Dugeites that I've got. I've had a bit of a passion project for the Dugeites because my male that I've got is a pretty unique guy. He is, I don't know, maybe 5.5 foot, and he is pitch black. But when he sort of gets upset and flares up a little bit, you can see he's got white bands hidden under his scales. He's a pretty special guy. He's got significant attitude issues. He is very antisocial, at least when it comes to human interactions. Um, he's not a very pleasant snake, but he's very predictable. He always comes flying out, typical sort of brown snake defensive behavior. But he's a cool snake. He's another one that I do really love, and I'm still kind of in two minds about moving them on. But again, they're from obviously Southwest WA, not all that far from where the Cordos are, which is climatically, extremely different to where we are now. Whilst the brown snakes seem to be doing really well, they are, I've got a female actually to go with it, I should say as well. I did pair them about a month ago, and the male just he did not miss a beat. He just went in, hunted her down, pushed her into the bottom of the enclosure, and did what he needed to do. And I imagine there'll be a clutch of Dugite eggs on the way. And I paired them specifically, as I mentioned, it's been a bit of a passion project because he has those bands. The female that I've paired him with, I bred him 4 years ago or so with another female. She was just pitch black. All the babies came out, and they've ended up going black. I actually received a message from Dan Marshall. If you're listening, mate, epic to hear from you. You got a baby from me 4 years ago, and he sent me a picture, and this thing is just basically a black Dugite, and it's awesome. But the project that I'm hoping to achieve or accomplish is producing banded Dugeites. I've got a female here produced by Jake, actually, who helped me move many years ago. She's grey on the front end with black and white sort of bands towards the tail end of her. She's a kraken snake as well. She's got like a coppery, yellowy, grey face as well. She's a very special snake too. So I'm really hoping I can produce some banded babies from them, just as a bit of a passion thing for me. It's something I've been working on for 4 or 5 years now. When I say working on, I mean I've just had the snakes, and this year's the time where the female is up to size and ready to breed. So I've done that. I'm not just sort of willy-nilly breeding either. I did put an expression of interest out on the Aussie Lapids Facebook page several months ago with pictures of both snakes and asked if anyone would be interested. So there'll be another thing. If I do get any viable eggs, I'll hatch those babies out, and I'll probably just sell them straight out of the egg. If anyone's interested in Dugeites, they'll be low price because they're a brown snake, and they'll be a pain in the ass. Um, but actually, the first time I bred Dugeites, I hatched out like 15 or whatever, and I went through and fed them all frozen thawed pinkies, just drop fed, just in the enclosures, and about half of them ate the rodents, and I was like, holy shit, this is not normal. I just thought these brown snakes were meant to be difficult, and I sent Matt Somerville a message, and he was like, yeah, nah, man, Dugeites are some of the easiest brown snakes to get going. I was like, okay, cool. All right, yeah, back in my box I go. I don't have a magic touch or anything. I managed to get nearly the rest of them established. I think I lost one or two, which was an arduous task, but that's okay. Rambling again. But yeah, so maybe hatch out some Dugeites, and then if the right home came up for the adult pair, I'd definitely be interested in. Oh, definitely would I? Yeah, it's a hard one. I love those snakes, but again, just sort of moving towards a different um, sort of collection and figuring out things that I really love keeping. And I don't necessarily love pulling out big, dangerous, pissed off, antisocial brown snakes all the time. So yeah, if someone's interested for the right home, I think I'd let them go. So um, yeah, reach out if you think that could float your boat at all. Um, and I guess talking about moving towards keeping a collection of things that I really actually do enjoy keeping. Like, there's a few things that'll always stay. The Maggie Island Death Adders will be here. Um, my one coastal taipan that's living under the TE, she'll always be here. What else have I got? Little Coranda Scalaris, who's I'm not entirely sure what's wrong with him. He's managed to somehow, it's like the muscles in his back legs have like atrophied or something, and they work, but they're very weak. And anyway, he'll stay. He's cool. We love him. He's a bit of a crowd favorite. That little dude. The way he cruises around it, yeah, he is cool. Um, but yeah, obviously, if you've been following my Instagram, you will see that um, potentially could have a bit of luck with green tree pythons this year. My main pair that I have here, there's 14 eggs in the incubator. Today they're on day 38 or 39 or something. So within the next couple of weeks, I'm really hoping to see some little heads pop out, which would be epic. Been 5 years since I hatched out the green pythons. I hatched out two, one died and the other one lived, which was awesome. So that's another one that's been a bit of a long time coming. And I think what really upset them was moving house a bunch of times. Green pythons are just sensitive, and somewhat finicky species. So I did get a second clutch once upon a time, but I literally moved house. She was outdoors at a mate's place in her outdoor enclosure, and she just scattered the eggs around the enclosure. So I didn't get them till a couple of days later. There's 7 eggs with windows and all sorts of. They weren't the best looking. They look fertile, but anyway, that's far too little, too late. And that's actually something to mention as well. I don't have a yard anymore. I've got a very small concrete patio, which might end up with an outdoor enclosure on it one day. I could see some green pythons living out there, but I was deeply saddened to have to move on all my outdoor enclosures. The Mertens went back to Jules. Jules took another big outdoor enclosure, the green python enclosure that I've had for a long time. Um, yeah, a bit sad to move on a bunch of big enclosures that I've spent a lot of time and effort building, but happy to know they're at good homes as well. And hopefully one day when the time comes, I'll build back up and get things outdoors again, because I'm very passionate about keeping things outdoors. I think that's pretty much the best way to do it. So that'll be a big thing when I can get outdoor enclosures again. But yeah, so like I was saying, I could have maybe 14 green pythons hatch out of one clutch, which would be epic. And then if you've seen my story this morning, I sent a mail down to Elliot Budd in Townsville to go with his female, which he's just kept him outdoors all year. She was showing signs that she could be gravid a little while ago, so we moved her, or Elliot moved her inside. And yeah, this morning she managed to bust out a clutch of 7 very, very healthy looking eggs, which is very exciting. So there's a chance I could go from, 2 or 3 green pythons to upwards of 20 odd in the coming months, which would be epic. So tomorrow afternoon, actually, I know it's a bit late. I've got snakes due potentially maybe in under 2 weeks. But tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to be putting together a rack to house all these hatchlings. I ordered a bunch of tubs online, but they'll arrive. Sorry, they have arrived, and yeah, I'll whack together a tub rack for hatchling green pythons, which will be very exciting. The other thing I want to do is I've been in talks with Tyson, obviously Habitats at Home. I'll be getting, hopefully, need baby green pythons to pay for this. But the hope is to get a nice little wall of Habitats at Home enclosures for all the adult green pythons. I've got geez, yeah, there's going to be quite a few that will need enclosures um, very soon. I bought an Aussie mustard 2-year-old female from Aaron Hopper quite a while ago, and he's been gracious enough to keep it at his house while I get my shit together. So very excited to hopefully have a bunch of new enclosures from Tyson in the not too distant future. Tub rack coming soon with hopefully going to fill that out with baby green pythons and get that going. Yeah, so I'm. It'll be really exciting to see the change from. I've got a picture. I might chuck it up here somewhere or not. I haven't decided yet. Maybe I'll just put it on my story. But I've got a picture of how the living room sits at the moment, and it's just enclosures of all shapes and sizes stacked on top of each other, and it just looks like a bit of a mess. So the dream would be obviously to get rid of pretty much everything that doesn't match and make it a nice, neat, cohesive sort of wall of pretty much just green pythons, which doesn't sound so bad to me. That's sort of the way I'm moving. They're just so easy to keep up here, at least, anyway. A couple of other notes I've got here is future animal plans. I really want to get my hands on. You probably can guess, but it's just another green python. I'd love to get my hands on a red Neo. Um, yeah, if I can get some baby green pythons out this year, some yellow ones, hopefully I can, sell a couple of those, make some money, and then hassle someone enough to sell me a red neonate green python. I really would love to watch the ontogenetic color change happen in those things. It just seems so dramatic and just pretty awesome just to witness. So that's a goal for me is get my hands on a red baby. My partner and I do have plans to travel in the coming years. So as much as I'd love to breed a red neo green python and produce them myself, I just don't exactly see that happening in the next 4 or 5 years. We plan to travel probably in somewhere between the next 2 to 5 years. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, just getting a red neo to watch it change. That's pretty much my only goal in terms of animals to acquire now. Um, I got suggested. I was trying to figure out what to talk about in this one, and my good mate Joel suggested that I ask myself the question of that I always like to ask people, and it's if you could keep anything from anywhere in the world, what would it be? I don't know. I kind of think we have the best stuff here. Like I love my coastal taipan, one in particular. The others are good too, but there's one that's a special snake. Um, the green pythons are just so good. Keeping them outdoors, ideally, that's what I'd like to change about it. Is keep them all in better outdoor setup enclosures that were a bit more permanent. Um, but if it had to be something international, I don't know. A king cobra would probably be up there. Definitely one of my favorite snakes. I've been lucky enough to interact with quite a few overseas. A good mate of mine in the US, who I haven't spoken to for a while. I should reach out to him actually. He had a wild collection. I actually met this dude on Instagram, and he kept a few Aussie snakes, and he was a bit unsure on a bunch of different sort of husbandry questions and things. And I was like, oh man, I can help with that. And I went out and bought Scott Iper's original Guide to Elapids and Colubrids in Husbandry or whatever it was called, and I just bought a copy of it before they were $300 each, and I sent it over to him. And then I ended up going to the States a few years later, and I went to his house and literally slept on the floor next to like a 4.5 meter retic, 4 meter king cobra, and there were monocle cobras and gaboon vipers and green mambas and black mambas and whatever else you can imagine, possibly imagine, to be honest, in that room. And I just slept on the floor on a little blow up mattress, which was very exciting for me. I was blown away. But he had this one king cobra, which was just insane. This thing was like a puppy dog. Like, it was, yeah, it knew him. It came out and looked at me, stood up and hooded up because I was a stranger, but it just calmed down and you could just, yeah, you could just about pick it up and put it over your shoulders if you wanted to. This thing was like highly intelligent and very relaxed. He also had a black mamba that he pulled out to show me, and he pulled this thing out and it was just wired. Like its head was twitching, it was looking around, it was looking at me, looking at him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's pretty chill." I said, "It fucking is not chill. Put it back." He asked me if I wanted to hold it. I was like, "No, please put it back." I did hold one of his green mumbas because they were practically like one of our common tree snakes with obviously significantly larger consequences, but they were very relaxed. The greens were epic. So yeah, I guess if I could keep anything from anywhere in the world without sort of anything prohibiting that, a king cobra would be awesome. Feeding it would be a challenge. Obviously, you'd like to feed it predominantly reptiles. Maybe I'd have to breed. No, I was going to say something that's illegal. I wouldn't breed Australian wildlife to feed to a king cobra, but ideally you'd want to feed a king cobra snakes if you could do it. And my last note in my list of notes is to adjust the thermostats, which I need to do for myself, and that's not for you guys. It's the note I wrote earlier. So, yeah, I guess thanks for listening. If you enjoyed that episode, it's a bit of a different one. I could probably do some more of these if I come up with things to talk about. But truth be told, I've just been so busy moving house and trying to organise that sort of side of things that I didn't organise anyone for this episode. So you got a solo one instead. Anyway, thanks so much for listening. If you've enjoyed listening, feel free to follow, like, share, subscribe, all that shit. YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram. I'm on Instagram at joemack.uthl. Yeah, appreciate it. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or you just want to chat. Let me know. Thanks, guys.